Hey everybody, I'm Steph.
I'm Michael.
Today we're checking out Minotaur
From Lynn Vander Studios. And they gave us this game to play for you guys, but not in exchange for this video. They gave it to us because they know we like to play all the games. So this is a cooperative game. Yep. Plays 1 to 4 players, and box playtime says 45 minutes. For those of you who loved all of the 8-bit games, which we've been talking about in the chat as we were setting all this up, this game has a very 8-bit feel to it, as you can see from the pictures here. All of the cards have this cool little 8-bit sort of style to it. So for those of you who grew up with games like that, you might feel right at home. But anyway, in Minotaur, you are cooperatively trying to escape from the Minotaur and the denizens of the maze, and ultimately to defeat the Minotaur. Now, we were not successful the first time we played this game, so hopefully we can do a little bit better.
I think we needed to lose horribly so we could prepare ourselves better for this next adventure. I hope.
Let's hope so.
It's a tough cooperative game, which is good because it means you'll want to keep playing it until you can do
exactly
win. So
yeah, because there are a lot of cooperative games that I play that are like, we win on the first play on like medium or hard level, and you're like, well, I mean, if that's it, it's not a big deal, right?
Right, we did it.
So we played on the normal basic level, and we got destroyed.
Right.
With a warrior and a wizard. And yeah.
Good luck us.
So now, the ranger and rogue are going to try to escape. So let's take a look at this maze that we have set up. For a 2-player game, you're going to set up a 3x3 grid with the start card in the middle and 8 cards around it. If you are playing with 3 or 4 characters, you're going to draw 14 cards and make a 3x5 grid. But in both cases, you're trying to connect as many corridors as possible. You can flip the cards over and everything in order to try to make everything connect as well as you can. Now, there are bags, basically a red bag and a blue bag, and you're going to put the red tokens and blue tokens in those bags. Now, if you are playing with 3 or 4 players, you will have all the tokens. If you're playing with 1 or 2 players, you're going to remove all of the tokens with the big black stripe in the middle of the tokens. This big black stripe can sort of be hard to see, easy to miss the first time that you punch these tokens out. However, if you take a close look, you will see that there is actually a black stripe running through the center of these tokens. So toss those to the side. We will not be playing with them in our 2-player game. So you will also want to shuffle the encounter cards and the monster strength cards and place them in draw piles. For each of these spawning points, we are going to turn over 1 of these cards and draw those tokens from the bag. For example, I'm going to flip this over and it says 2 blue and a red. So we need 2 blue tokens and a red token right here. That's a red Pegasus. And we will look at all of these here in a bit. A Pegasus, a trap, and a sword? That actually looks good. For this one, we need 1 blue and 2 red. That's 2 red. Looks like a wall and a skeleton. I'll explain that in a second. And the blue. On this one up here, we need 2 blue and 2 red. Wow, this is going to be a full dungeon. Ooh, magical.
And 2 red?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, thanks for following us, Sunny.
Sunny Stormy. And down here, nothing. No blue, no red. Wow.
Good. We can just ignore this.
Maybe so. So it's been a minute since we played. I want to make sure I get these rules right and don't miss anything. Now, if you're going to play the solo game, you're going to choose 2 different characters and play them basically double-handed. So We are working together to find the 3 medallions necessary to stop the Minotaur. Once all of them are found and assembled together, we have sealed the Minotaur, which will leave us to escape the dungeon with our loot. All of us will lose if any character falls below 0 health. Now, it looks like I've got 20 health here, and so does the rogue. So you'll set that on your dials. Keep in mind, these dials are super, super loose and can move quite easily. They do not, the dials don't stay put very well. So make sure to set it down and don't touch it if at all possible.
Yep.
So the game is going to be played over a series of rounds. Each round has a player phase, then a monster phase. During the player phase, each of us is going to take a turn. We can take our turns in any order we want. But once I start my turn, I must finish my turn before the rogue can start her turn. So there are 2 different types of actions: basic actions and class actions. Basic actions are available to everyone. Class actions will depend on the individual character. For example, the rogue has backstab, razor fan, cloak, disarm, dispel, and strength. I also have disarm, dispel, and strength, but I have spread fire, long shot, and targeted shot on my character. So these basic actions are available to all players. On the back of these player, on the back of the player sheets are little help sheets. And so those will tell you all of the player actions and will give you a reference for all the tokens. So, one of the basic actions is to move. You're going to travel from one card to another, and the total number of cards that you can move is equal to your speed. When you're moving, you can pass from one card to another as long as they're connected by an open connection. And we don't have to use all our speed. However, we have to finish our movement before taking another action. I cannot go here, pick up something, and move to the next card. That's not allowed. I have to finish my movement, then do the next thing. So we cannot move through solid black lines that indicate a wall of the labyrinth, obviously. So I can't move from here to here. Monsters can, and I'll explain that in a little bit. We cannot move past physical barriers or magical barriers. So it looks like that is a physical and 2 magical. So we'll have to deal with those here in a second. Whenever a character leaves a card with a monster, each monster will harm us. Each skeleton token, as you see here, each elite skeleton token as well, or the Minotaur. Where is that Minotaur? You don't even have him out.
He's not a real person.
He is big, and I wanted to show
He is a real
the
person.
large Minotaur that's going to be stomping around the maze.
Just don't want him to find us.
I guess so. If we leave a card with any of those things on it, they're going to damage us, and we're going to lose 3 health per monster. Don't do that. If there's a harpy token on the card, you don't lose any health for that token, but the harpy might steal an item. If a player leaves a card with a trap, like this one here, it is going to damage. It's going to activate and deals damage to all of the characters in that area. So over the course of a game, we're going to find items in the labyrinth, like, let's see, this looks like a, not sure what that is. Is it a thread?
Yeah,
I believe
that's
it is a thread.
Yes.
There are, I see a sword there. A lot of different things that are there. Picking up an item does take an action. Whenever you pick up an item, just put it on your character card. However, each character can carry 1 item at a time. If you already have an item, you have to drop the item that you currently have. You can drop your item and pick up a new one as 1 action. However, if you want to drop an item and use that, just dropping something and not picking something up, that also costs your action. So, and the item is just going to stay on the card until somebody comes and picks it up. So I might be headed towards something really good, but you're going a different direction. I might want to drop the sword, head to another place. As you move through, you can pick up the sword And so that might be a reason to drop something without picking something else
I'm
up.
glad it doesn't just go away. Some
Yes.
games you drop something and it just goes
Well,
away.
it might go away, but I'll talk about that here in a second.
Sure.
So, using an item, some items require an action to use them. Some are just automatic and work passively. Barrier tokens are initially placed so that the intact image is face up. Notice the other side of this looks like a broken barrier. When a barrier is partially broken, you can just remove it with a basic action that's called remove broken barrier. So if there is the dispel action that enables you to collect barrier tokens. You don't get to keep the barrier token if you remove it with this remove broken barrier token action. There's also, you see this magical barrier also has a broken barrier side to it as well. So each of the class actions are special. And so each has a name, a dice value, as you can see, whether you roll 1 or 2 dice, and whether you get any additional bumps to the roll. There's also a target, whether it's a single monster or all the monsters on a card, and a range. If it's 0, it can only affect targets on your card. If it has a range greater than 1, you have to count that range in straight lines. You cannot go around a corner with it. But if you have a range of 1, then it cannot affect your card. A lot of times things will say range 0-1, which means your card or an adjacent card. So obviously an adjacent card you can see. Obviously in a game like this, we're not talking about diagonals. So as we advance through the labyrinth, we're going to move to new areas to continue our quest. Whenever we're adjacent to an open edge and we move off the other edge, you are going to draw new labyrinth cards. Whenever we do this, the cards on the opposite side of the labyrinth are removed so that the size of the labyrinth stays 3x3 or 3x5 if you're playing with 3 or 4 players. You cannot explore the labyrinth if there are any cards that would be removed. For example, if Steph were up here and I were moving off the edge, I cannot do that because that's going to clear this line of cards. So clearly I can't do that. I could move off here because there are no standees here. If for some reason there was something that let me move off to the side, I could do so because it would only clear these cards with these tokens. Yes, you can clear cards with tokens. No, you cannot clear cards with these little plastic standees, such as, oh, let me guess. Yes, the Minotaur has a standee.
True, true.
True, true, true. So, and you have to have enough movement to step off the open edge of the labyrinth. Just being next to it is not enough. You can't say, hey, what's down this hallway? You have to be able to move into that hallway. So you're going to draw enough cards to form a new row or column. And then, just like when setting up, you need to place these so that you can make as many connections as possible. Dead ends are still allowed and they are expected. So you can rotate the cards. However, you cannot turn a card so that it does not fit in the same orientation as the rest of the cards here. They must all be placed in this, horizontal orientation. So, however, you can flip them over if for some reason, let's say that this card went a certain direction, you might be able to flip it around so that you can get more pathways out. So, if there are any discarded tokens, for example, if I've moved off the side and these cards disappear, these tokens do not go back to the bag. They will go to discard piles, and these will only go back into the draw bags when we run out of tokens.
Basically, we have to be careful not to get rid of things we need.
Oh, for sure. Especially the pieces.
My amulets.
Yes. If we see any things with the skull symbols, we have to draw from the skull deck as we did before, where we are going to place the number of things, number of tokens from the blue bag or the red bag. This one we got lucky on, I guess.
Yeah, I like that card.
Yeah, that was a good one. If the Minotaur is not in play, we have to perform a Minotaur check. I'm going to talk about that here in a bit. If we still have any speed left, we can continue the movement. And when we're exploring the labyrinth, we might find that when we go off and then come back, these cards might have changed. For example, if you're here, I move off, these cards disappear, right? Are you paying attention here?
Yes.
And then when we move back and these cards appear again,
they're going to be different.
They could be different.
They're likely
like when we
different.
go off.
Because it doesn't have a memory.
It does not have a memory once you leave. I mean, it's a shifting magical maze after all, right?
Exactly.
So, there are staircase tokens, or are they on the card? I can't remember. In any case, we can go down the stairs to a new floor, and it's really similar to when we move off the edge of the labyrinth. However, you can still descend to a new floor regardless of where everybody else is, even if the Minotaur is present. So, obviously, you have to have enough movement to go down the stairs. You're going to discard all the tokens in the labyrinth cards. You're going to start with the start card again, and you're going to put 8 cards around, just as when we started. Now, just because we're on level 2 does not necessarily mean that we're going to fight level 2 monsters.
Right.
We're just going down a level in the labyrinth. So, building the the dungeon as we did before, we're going to spawn the locations just as we did before. And then, guess what?
What?
We're going to do a Minotaur check.
No.
Just like when we move off the edge.
We don't like that.
And if you have any speed left, you can keep going. So, we've already talked a little bit about spawning encounters. Let's talk a little bit about... and I should mention, if you need to draw and the bag is empty, that's when you put all of the discarded tokens back in the bag. So, whenever you draw these physical or magical barriers, we have to place them on an exit from the labyrinth card. An exit is an open corridor that leads to an open area on another card, for example, this to this, or off the edge of the labyrinth, like from here, off the edge. So, if the corridor leads to a wall on another card, just like a dead end, you cannot put the barrier there. We get to choose where the barriers are placed, and yes, multiple barriers can be placed on the same exit. To do so, we're just going to stack those tokens on top of each other. So, if we don't want this skeleton to get to us, we could put this here, and this here, and this here if we wanted to do so. I don't think that's a bad plan. What do you think?
Yeah.
So, for this here, we can place this barrier on this border, or we can place it here if we don't plan to pick up the thread. The thread, the thread's use is to discard when exploring or descending. You don't make a Minotaur check. So if we don't want the skeleton to get us, we could do that.
I think we do that.
That sounds good.
Yep.
And there's none here. I can talk about these tokens here in a second. So, let's talk a little bit about those class checks where we're rolling dice. When we want to perform a class action, we're going to do a check. And like I mentioned before, you're going to roll 1 or 2 dice. And then that's going to determine your score. For other actions like combat or breaking down barriers or disabling traps, you are going to draw a monster strength card after rolling the dice. Let's say I rolled this 10 when I'm trying to disarm a trap. I am going to draw this card, and that shows everything for the Minotaur and for magical barriers, physical barriers, skeletons, elite skeletons, harpies, and traps. And we want to make sure that the check that I rolled is equal to or greater than these values. If it is, it's successful. If it's at least equal to or greater than. So that token is going to be removed from the labyrinth and placed in the discard pile, unless the class action says something different. Like, I believe there was one when I was the wizard, I could like banish it to another part. I could banish a token to another part of the maze. So that would be a time that the token is not removed. It is just moved to a different place. So, if the character is not successful, whatever happens depends on the type of token. If it's a monster, then the character is going to lose health equal to the difference between the value rolled and the strength of the monster. So if I rolled a 2, which would not be good, against that elite skeleton, which is a 4, I'm going to lose 2 health.
That's not good.
Now, here is the catch. Let's say I do a ranged attack against this skeleton and I rolled the 2.
Yep.
The elite skeleton's not on my square. However, it's still going to counterattack and do that 2 damage to me, even if he's not on my card.
So rude.
It's so rude. All right, how about a trap? All characters on the same card as the trap token will lose health equal to the full strength of the trap. And in this case, the full strength of the trap is 6. Don't miss it by 1 because you're taking the full 6 damage. That's not good. Now, there was a disarm ability at range 1 on my wizard. Actually, your rogue has a range 0 or 1 on your disarm.
Yep.
My disarm is range 0. So if I fail, I'm going to cause the bad thing to happen. If yours fails, it doesn't. Because you're not on that spot.
Unless I were on the spot.
Unless I were also on the spot. So don't let that happen.
Yeah, don't do that.
And that's characters will take that damage. Monsters do not. If it's a barrier token, you get to place the barrier. Still get to place it in the labyrinth. But this time, you put it with the broken side up. And remember, you can remove that with a basic action. Remove broken barrier token. So, when an area attack strikes the Minotaur, you're going to check that monster strength card, and if the Minotaur loses health, you're going to keep checking a second card. You're going to keep doing that until you either fail to damage the Minotaur, or the Minotaur has been defeated and the Minotaur retreats. So check out this, where the heart will start on the 0, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. So, the object of the game is to complete medallions. There are 3 medallions. There is a red medallion, a yellow medallion, and a blue medallion, but there's half of each of these in each bag. The blue bag has a 1/2 of a red, yellow, and blue, and the blue bag has half of red, yellow, and blue. If we are carrying a medallion half as our item, keep in mind, how many items can you hold?
1.
Exactly. If you're carrying a medallion half and you're on the same card as the matching half, boom, it assembles.
We need to stay together.
Well, or we need to just have somebody carrying the medallion half, and we need to find that other half.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm probably gonna have a red half, and you're gonna have like a yellow half, and we're gonna be looking for the other halves.
It's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be tough.
I need to cheat and pull out what I need from the bag.
Yes.
So that's what you're saying.
You are going to take both of those halves and you get to place it on the Minotaur card. This is a completed medallion. There's an exception to this.
Yeah.
And that is if the Minotaur is carrying half of the medallion. That can happen. In that case, you have to first defeat the Minotaur, and the Minotaur will drop the medallion piece.
Okay.
Before you can complete it. If you complete a medallion while the Minotaur is in play, draw an encounter card and add health to the Minotaur to reach the new health level. This is true even if the Minotaur was damaged in combat. So notice, at 0, it's at a 2. With 1, it's going to add 6. With 2 pieces, it's going to have 8. So, it seems a little dangerous. So, if the number on the reveal card is lower than the current health of the Minotaur, like if he's already at an 8 and we reveal a 6 card, it's still going to stay an 8. So, after all the characters have taken 2 actions, it's time for the monsters to go. Excuse me for a second. All right, so first the monsters are going to move, then the monsters are going to attack, and then the traps are going to trigger. Then we're going to do a Minotaur check, and that's where I get to explain all those little Minotaur checks I was talking about. So, every monster that's in the labyrinth that's not on a card with a character will move 1 card towards the nearest character. So, Magical barriers do not stop monsters or stop their movement, but physical ones do. It's as if there were a big black wall right there or right here. So, the Minotaur can destroy physical barriers. If a Minotaur is stuck behind a physical barrier and it needs to break through one to get to us, guess what it's going to do?
Go right door.
It's going to spend one movement to destroy that barrier, and if he has a second movement, it's going to go its second movement through where that barrier was.
Yep.
So, what happens if any monster, including the Minotaur, is unable to reach any character because it's blocked off with walls? They can use secret passages. So, and they can only be used by monsters. So let's say you're over here. This guy is separated from me by this physical barrier and separated from you by this wall. You know what he's going to do? He's going to spend one movement to go in the crawl space between the walls as a secret passage because he knows how to get there. We do not. When it gets a second movement, it will make it to the other side of the wall. So keep that in mind. Those monsters will squeeze through cracks that we cannot use. So monsters will not use secret passages as long as there is a valid path to the characters. For example, if these were not here and we were over here, yes, that monster could squeeze through that trap, the wall there, but he's not going to. He's going to go the long way around because there is a long way around. So keep that in mind. And remember, those magical barriers don't stop him at all. So, if a monster's in a secret passage, it can't be targeted by any attacks. You can't range attack him. You can't melee him. He's in between dimensions, so to speak. So, if a labyrinth card is discarded because of exploration and a monster is partially on this card, so like if we're here and we've moved off the side, that monster is gone. He's no longer on the secret passage.
Okay.
What are you looking at? You're looking at something. Any monsters that did not move will now attack. Let's say that monster is already in the room with us. Elite skeletons and minotaurs get 2 movement. Normal skeletons and other monsters will just get 1 movement. So, if an elite skeleton or minotaur moves 1 space, it has a movement left over, so it will attack. If an elite skeleton or minotaur did not move, they're going to attack us twice. Basically, they use actions to move and or attack. So, oh, sorry. Elite skeletons will not attack twice. Elite skeletons only attack once.
Okay.
I almost messed that up. So, if the Minotaur attacks twice, you're going to basically do 2 attacks. The Harpy won't attack. The Harpy is this little bird type of creature. It's going to steal items that we are in possession of or that it finds in the dungeon. So we're going to draw a monster strength card. We're going to find the row matching the monster that attacked. All the characters are going to lose this much health. And remember, this card that I drew right here. Boom! The Minotaur's gonna hit us for 9. The elite skeletons are gonna hit us for 8. The normal skeletons are gonna hit us for 3. That's bad. All the characters on the same card are gonna lose that much health. So this guy would attack both of us for 3 damage. That's not very nice. So for each trap token with a character on it, then that trap is going to trigger. Again, you're going to get that value off of the monster strength card. After the trap's been triggered, yay, we get to discard it. Finally, we have to check for the Minotaur. We have to check for the Minotaur at which times? Do you remember?
When we move out.
When you move off the map.
When we go downstairs.
When you go downstairs. And
now.
At the end of the monster phase. Here is when it will happen at the end of the monster phase. If there's no monsters on labyrinth cards, or there are at least 2 matching medallion pieces currently in play. So it's good to have monsters on the map, just not good to have monsters on the map hurting us. So either of those have to happen. There are no monsters on Labyrinth cards, or there are 2 matching medallion pieces currently in play, either held by characters or just sitting on the ground. Then the Minotaur comes in. If we just defeated the Minotaur, we do not check for it this round. It basically has to wait around for it can possibly come back in. So, um, so we're going to draw an encounter card and refer to the half of the Minotaur. As we had mentioned before, the half of the card has 3 circles on it, depending on how many medallions we have assembled. We're going to check the row with the number of filled in circles. If we've assembled 2 medallions, then this Minotaur is going to come in with 8 strength. So we're going to put the heart on here, and we have to beat that Minotaur in order for it to disappear. Basically, it's going to run away and try to get us again later. So now, where does the Minotaur pop up? Whenever the Minotaur spawns, this is the checklist that you do. When you explore or descend, he's going to spawn on the same card as the character that triggered the exploration.
No.
During the monster phase, you're going to see if there's any medallion halves in play. If there are 2 matching halves, then it's going to be on one of those matching half cards or characters. Or if there is any medallion half, it's going to spawn there. If there's no medallion halves, we get to spawn him wherever we want. So, he will try to steal those pieces, and you're going to place it on the Minotaur card, covering him, not the medallion spots. So, and we'll only be able to get that if we defeat the Minotaur. If a Minotaur has a medallion piece, when we go down a flight of stairs, that medallion token is discarded. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's bad.
You have to go through the entire bag of tokens before. And look, there are quite a few tokens in this bag. I'm not even sure if you can see how many are in there, but
it's a lot.
It's not a few. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind.
Hey, Cosmic Beat, thanks for that subscription.
It's Cosmic Beat.
All the games.
All the games.
That's right.
So, remember the Harpy does not attack. It does not retaliate if you fail to defeat it with an attack. However, if it enters a card with an item, it steals it, even if you are the person carrying that item. He's just going to take it from you.
Aw.
And then it's going to try to take off, either to a staircase or a corridor leading off the map. That is pretty much it. There are some tokens that we haven't talked about, like this Pegasus. This can help a character escape. We can use this token to move out of a corridor with monsters without losing any health or items. In addition, we can discard it during the monster phase to avoid being attacked by all of the monsters on the card. So when you use the Pegasus either way, it basically has carried you away.
Okay.
So the sword gives the owner a +1 modifier to all checks that target monsters. It's passive. You don't have to specifically use it. But look, there's a trap on that space. I already talked a little bit about the thread. You can choose to discard the token when walking off the edge or going down the stairs. And then you don't check for the Minotaur. I think that is about it. There are portable holes. There are banishing lights. There are healing bottles.
Talk about my rogue for a minute.
Talk about your rogue
it's
for a minute.
The rules, right?
No.
There's a page of people at the back.
A character capable of disappearing from view completely, protecting them as long as a monster doesn't stumble upon them in the labyrinth. The rogue performs best when there's another character around to distract the monsters, creating an opening they can use to deal massive damage. Yeah. What you wanted to know?
Well, my cloak says during the monster phase, monsters will not move towards you, but they will attack you if they're on my labyrinth card. So would that mean we are protected from monsters coming onto our card if you are there?
No.
So if it's just me alone?
No.
Monsters?
Neither. They will not come towards you.
Right.
But if they do end up on your spot, they will attack you.
but they don't see me, but they see you, so
So
they still walk.
there's me there and you over here,
Yes.
and a skeleton right here.
Yes.
Right? This skeleton will go here.
Yeah,
Because
he
he
does
doesn't
not
see you.
me.
However, if you were here and I was here and he was trying to get to me,
yeah,
he would go here and boom, he would attack you the following turn.
Okay.
Because you would be there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's fine. That was my question.
Hopefully that clarifies all of that.
All right.
Now, we died awful quickly.
It's true, but I am going to do a separate video for rules. So this was my rules. This was Michael's rules.
Michael's rules.
And we'll get into all the nitty gritty in the next video where we go and attempt to survive this thing.
Now, this is a rather small box game. It's not a large box, and there's not a lot of components to it, but it does have all of those rules. Each of the characters will have their own special things, which I did not go into. Unfortunately, we did have a good variety of things on the cards. So, yeah. If you want to see the playthrough, then check out the Twitch VOD or check out Steph's YouTube channel. It's Pumpkin312, but you can usually find her by just searching for, all one word, Board Gamer Steph.
That's right. And I'll have a link right below too. So
that's right. And hey, if you enjoyed this teach and you'd like to see more teaches and playthroughs, then hey, come join us on twitch.tv/BoardGamerSteph every Wednesday and Sunday night at 5 p.m. Central, where we play 3 games every single stream. So hey, come join us where we play all the games.
That's right. And for those on Twitch, we'll be right back with this playthrough.
Check it out.